Bonjour, mes amis. I am le meunier, propriétaire du Grand Moulin du Boussac. And this is Isla. Today we'll tell you about how the mill and I found each other. I was born and grew up in the United States, making my home on the Gulf Coast of Texas. My parents instilled in me a love of travel, taking trips abroad and exposing me to a wide variety of cultures. I've been around the world, north and south, east and west, but I always came home and figured that was that. Although I grew up believing certain truths, my eyes slowly opened to the reality of life, and I found the courage to discard those things that I didn't think were actually true. Without children of my own, I realized that everything I'd been saving for, namely retirement, would be wasted if I died before I got to enjoy it. I started collecting art and other things, but the thrill of each acquisition quickly faded until the next one. A few years ago, I lost someone special, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. There is no set agenda for each of us. There is no certainty of our future. Everyone has heard the cliche, you can't take it with you, but nothing illustrates that better than having to deal with everything someone else left behind. Another one of my realizations was that I never intentionally chose to live in Texas, so I just choose to live somewhere else. I love visiting Japan, but I don't think I could live in a 2-meter square box. I love England and Ireland, but the price of housing there scared me off too. Normandy and Benelux are great, but my sister's experience as an expat in the Netherlands convinced me I needed someplace that wasn't gray and miserable half the year. Spain was just as hot and unpleasant as Texas, so that's out. And Austrian winters are beautiful, but too cold. In search of a place with 4 seasons, not too hot, but not too cold, not too dry and constant rain gets old, I started looking around central France. Another common cliche in the real estate business, location, location, location. Property agents will tell you to pick an area to narrow down your search and choose from what's available there. But if I'm going to be breaking conventions, I'm not going to do it the way I'm told. I come from a city without practical mass transit, so needing a car isn't a deal breaker, but I do come from a city with a wide variety of food choices, so a tiny village won't cut it. I've spent enough time in New York, London, Paris, and other major cities to know that isn't for me either. I just needed a town with a decent grocery store or two, not too far from a city. Based on geography, I narrowed my search down to 17 departments, roughly 1/3 of France. I also gave myself a realistic budget that didn't include chateau restorations. As I started looking, I found myself drawn to old stone buildings, the kind that have been there since before the revolution. Another thing I'm drawn to is having water nearby, whether it's an ocean, lake, or river. Something that doesn't really exist in America started showing up in my searches, moulins or watermills. Soon, that was the only keyword I was interested in, and I quickly had a list of 80 old mills that were in my price range, the general area, and could be moved into, even if a little bit of work was needed. Something you may not already know is that French property agents don't always have exclusive rights to sell a property. Since they often live in fear of getting cut out of the deal, they rarely provide the exact address or even the correct town where a property is listed. Some of them won't even tell you the address until you've made an appointment for them to show you the property, securing their rights in the process. But with Google Maps Street View and a lot of spare time, it's often possible to find the property on your own. French cadastral maps are also pretty handy in this process. If there's interest, I'll do a how-to video on this in the future. Armed with the exact location, I could see just how far away the property was from a grocery store, pharmacy, train station, and other services. This helped me narrow down my list to about a dozen properties, even though I was still dealing with an area 250 miles across. There was one property that jumped off the page, a coup de coeur as they say, so I figured it was time to start seeing them in person. I booked an Airbnb for 6 weeks in Limoges, both as a central point for driving in all directions, but also to immerse myself in France as a bit more than a tourist staying in hotels and eating in restaurants. I even worked for my US-based company while I was there, getting used to working 3 p.m. to midnight instead of 9 a.m. to 6. I visited Le Grand Moulin first. It was exactly as depicted, and I knew right away that it was the one. But I'm far too practical, masochistic some might say, to stop there. The second property I visited came with quite a bit of land. Normally I'd consider this a good thing, but land requires upkeep, and if I'm not there full time yet, I'd just be paying someone else even more to take care of it for me. That helped me set another filter on my property searches and cut my list again by half. After seeing a couple more properties in person, I felt confident that the doubts I had about some of them, based solely on their online photos, was correct. Put another way, I had calibrated my expectations and knew that I wouldn't feel the same about any other property as I'd felt about Le Grand Moulin. I just knew that if I waited trying to find something better, I would risk losing it and would regret it. At the end of my 6 weeks, I called the agent and made an offer which was accepted. The rest isn't just history, it's my future. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll come back again for more.